to people.
But the point, the principle I'm making is they're free will choices. So yeah,
Right.
we can choose to stop suffering, absolutely. But you know, I'm glad you brought that up about the suffering thing, because when I said God offers us the path of grace and people, almost all people, choose the path of suffering, the next question that people ask me is, why then? Well, people choose suffering because of their weak faith in God and because they live as victims and want to blame God for everything and think that God dealt them a lousy hand. But it's really they have that weak faith and they don't understand the inherent truths of the situations. But then that begets the next question. Well, if there's really a God, why does God allow it? If God didn't create it, why does he allow it? He, she. God allows suffering because it wears down resistance. Suffering wears down human resistance to God. By that, in the wearing down of resistance, it creates and invokes the exalted state known as surrender. So in other words, suffering is a wayward humanity's incentive to turn toward God. And that's why God allows it, even though God didn't create it, because it works.
Yes, I've seen.
But we don't have to. Like you said,
It's
it
true.
is a choice.
It is a choice. But I've seen a lot of people saying, you know, when they are in the in adversity, they've lost a loved one or something like that. It's very often when they do turn to God. Some people choose to turn
God.
or away
Yeah,
from. Right.
they do.
Some people say, "Oh, God allowed my husband to die, and so I'm not talking to him anymore." Or in the same instance, saying, bring God closer so that I can get comfort and be able to endure this and get through it and move on and continue my life. And someday, when it's my time, I'll see this person again.
Yeah. Classic example is people who have near-death experiences, and especially cancers, or when they near-death in the truest sense, when they actually flatline, they die, and they go into the light, as it's described, and then they somehow come back. I mean, I have yet encountered a case where that didn't completely change someone's life.
Oh yeah, always.
And for the better.
Yes,
They become more
usually
loving, more forgiving,
yes,
more compassionate,
more
and in
understanding.
some way, shape, or form, conscious or unconscious, their focus turns toward God, and almost in every single case, they now dedicate their lives to helping other people, which in effect is serving God.
And also it was the lesson that they were supposed to learn, obviously, and they learned it, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing at that point.
And they don't necessarily learn it consciously, because everyone doesn't have conscious dialogue with God or with truth, but its effect took hold of them. You know, many people flatline and come back, and then all of a sudden they get this vision, this revelation, I'm doing this now, and boom, with every molecule and cell of their being, with all their passion.
They did it.
So they didn't necessarily have a dialogue or say, I got this and I learned that, but they just know, I'm now doing this, and their old life just fell away like a tattered garment. So yeah, and like what you said, on some level, unconsciously, they got the lesson. It changed them.
Right, right.
It changed the course of their lives for the better.
Yes, yeah, always for the better. It is.
So that's why God allows suffering, because it wears down our resistance and brings about our ultimate surrender to God.
Right.
So then we can be used as emissaries of light, as instruments for the divine, because God has no hands but ours. God has no lips but ours. God has no tongue but ours. So if we want to use it for all our selfish pursuits and sense gratification and all the things we do to numb the pain of feeling separate, which is why we do it in the first place, then God has one less emissary. So those are the situations and the consciousnesses that magnetize suffering. So when it wears us down and we have no more fight left in us, now God has access to us.
What about, though, there are those among us in this 7 billion people that live on this earth who do go around being evil all their lives? Or how are they a reflection of someone who's trying to do something good?
How are they a reflection? You mean how are they a reflection for someone else? Like if there's someone evil?
Well, you're saying that we're the center of our universe, and we are a reflection of the other 7 billion people that are on the planet. But many of them are doing evil deeds.
Yeah.
They're making other people suffer. They're making animals suffer. They're making their environment suffer. And my question is, what about them? I mean, they.
So what's the reflection for me?
Exactly, because I mean, I'm trying to do good. I get up in the morning and I just try to do good deeds all day long. If somebody needs something, I'm trying to be there for them. If you know, well, whatever I find I can do to make this world a better place every day, I try to do. But there are people out there who don't. They're doing whatever they can to make it a more miserable place.
That is true, and there are many of them. So, some of the reflections and some of the invitations to become greater love. I mean, I could go on and on. Number one, there would be first and foremost an invitation to love them and bless them. Because you have, when people get caught up, here's again the example of believing in the illusion. When you see people doing evil deeds, to confuse the deed for the soul is a grave error, because there are no evil people. There's not an evil person on the planet. People commit evil acts, but every human being is God. So if you took a blowtorch and just burnished the flesh off every human being, there'd be a ball of white light inside everyone, from Mother Teresa to the lowliest serial killer. We are all God in essence. We're all made by love, of love, to become love. So to believe that the person is evil and then start judging and blaming and condemning, you have now become evil. You are now committing an evil act by condemning another human being. So when you see someone committing evil, it doesn't mean just go, oh, that's so wonderful, we're all love, and I bless your efforts. But you can bless the person. You can pray for that person's heart to open. You can pray that that person have an awakening, that that person be touched by love in some way, that that person see the light. You can pray and bless that one and forgive that one. I forgive what you do. The same way Jesus forgave the people who whipped him and put thorns in his head and nailed him to a cross. I mean, what more profound example of forgiveness is there in all time and eternity? So, I mean, how quickly people forget the greatest example that was ever administered in a human life of forgiveness. And not to say he was the only one. I mean, there are countless ones, people who have to witness and experience horrors in their lives. But the invitation is still there to bless everyone and everything all the time, to forgive everyone all the time. Another reflection, it's, well, also to remind me that we're all love. Don't buy into the temptation. Remember to see everyone through the eyes of love, see everything as love. Another invitation is to remember, for me to remember the laws of cause and effect, that there are no accidents, there are no victims, there are no coincidences. Every single thing that's happening was divinely ordained and decreed and is in somehow, it doesn't mean God said, I'm going to send a killer into the world, but it's all part of the divine plan. There's a blueprint, a tapestry that's so infinite that we could never, ever figure out. So it's foolish to even begin to try to, a human consciousness that looks at the world through a pinhole to try to begin to fathom the infinite tapestry of the divine mind. But what we can do is practice these simple tenets of love, forgiveness, self-inquiry, self-reflection. Can I become greater forgiveness? Can I become greater tolerance, greater compassion, greater mercy? Can I also use that as a reminder to me that everything is happening for a reason? There are people, for every person out there murdering who needs the life lesson of murder and the karma of that as part of his or her growth, there have to be people out there who need the life lesson of being murdered. Because creation only happens through harmonic convergence, supply and demand. So if there was no one on the planet who needs a life lesson of being murdered, there could not be a murderer on the planet. That's transcendent consciousness.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, there are no victims. You know, why do certain people's houses get broken into and not others? And sometimes it's not the richest one in the street. Sometimes it's not the most expensive car on the lot. Why? Why do certain cars get the key dragged down the side or the rear window smashed in? I've seen people get their window smashed in and nothing taken from the car. So why? Why? That's the question that people don't want to ask. Well, the person who just, left the church and then gave the finger to someone trying to get out of the parking lot first is the same person maybe who comes out to their car at night after the restaurant and finds the window smashed in.
And wonders
but
why.
forgets that they gave the finger to the little old lady down the street leaving the church.
Right.
And they say, well, what idiot would smash my window? Well, what idiot would give the finger to an old lady?
Right. It's true.
What goes where you reap what you sow.
Now, I was driving along the other day and I saw a parked car with the back window smashed in, and the thought that went through my mind was, I wonder who got mad at that person, because it was obvious that, that the window, it was no accident.
Yeah, and the thought that comes to my mind is, I wonder what that driver did to create getting the window smashed.
That's it, yes.
I don't think about the person who threw the rock, I think about the person driving the car.
Because sometimes when things happen like that, it's because somebody brought it on by their own karma.
Exactly. In the same way, when I see a wild, recalcitrant child, you know, screaming and yelling and throwing things, people say, drug the child, hit the child, punish the child. I ignore the child and I look at the parent.
Oh, yeah.
The children are reflections of the parent.
That's right.
Not the other way around. The parents react to the children. They should be going to the mirror and looking at themselves.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
So, you know, anyway.
It's the truth.
That's how it works.
That's the truth. Yeah. So, yeah, because when people have, you know, and they're yelling at their kids and everything, and then their kids grow up and they're yelling at their kids.
But louder and worse than the parents yelled at them.
Yeah.
Because it amplifies. That type of behavior gains interest generation after generation. It doesn't just come the same or go less. Until someone makes the conscious choice, I choose love. Granted, I was treated this way by my parents, but if I'm wise, I'll find out the reasons I needed that in life and what it taught me. I will bless and forgive my parents, knowing that they not only did the best, or maybe not, that they could have, but more importantly, that my soul, before I was even born, wanted, needed, chose, and created that circumstance. And if you were one's super wise, begged their souls before incarnating to come in and treat me that way. So imagine, if you want to go to full transcendent consciousness, imagine how much the soul of an abusive parent had to love the soul of its future to-be abused child in order to accept that invitation. When your souls convened prior to embodying and you said, let's say you and I have gone back millennia, and I say, Christine, in my next lifetime, I want you to come back and be a mother who never touches me, never kisses me, never holds me. I need this lesson. This is going to teach me self-love like nothing else will. This will teach me to appreciate myself. This will ultimately drive me to the arms of my Divine Mother, where I will have the most transcendent experience of any of my lifetimes. Will you do this for me? Imagine how much you have to love me to accept that invitation, when you could say, can't I come in as your lover? Can't we be best friends? Remember when we were Susie and Chrissy? Can't we do that? I know we've done that before, but I really need this. You know me, you've been in more lifetimes with me than anyone. Please do this for me. So if we come from that thought, how could we hate our parents and blame them for what we asked them to do in the first place?
I heard a story, I believe was true, where there was a couple who had a daughter, and as the daughter grew up, the father abused her terribly, sexually abused her, beat her, all kinds of things, and the mother always looked the other way because she was afraid of the father or something. And then eventually the parents died, and eventually the young lady died. And when we die, it's my understanding that we get greeted by our loved ones that went before us on the other side, in the other dimension. And when she saw them in the other dimension, they all embraced and said, oh, we all did our parts really well, didn't we? So I guess, so I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a big, I was going to say it's a big game, but I didn't mean it offhandedly or irreverently. But, you know, it's like a chess game, you know, and we're players on the chessboard, and we have this whole dance we have to do to get through the maze, get through this labyrinth called life, and learn as much as we can to become the greatest example of love that we can be. So
that when we proceed to the other side, we have come up a couple of notches.
At the very least.
At the very least. Yeah. Well, there are, it's my understanding there are different realms on the other side, and we come back here to have these experiences so that we can further ourselves and be in a higher place when we go back again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's really all one. I often like to get people not too enticed about going to the other side and, you know, living forever in heaven. I mean, heaven is not a place, it's really a state of consciousness. So it doesn't really matter whether you're embodied or not embodied. It really just matters about becoming the greatest love you can be, and it matters just to serve whatever God is asking. A lot of people, a lot of aspirants will say to me, well, I want to do all my work here and I want to learn all my lessons so I can go home. There's still this inherent belief in people that there's some better place you're going, but that's still the wound talking. Right. We don't really go anywhere. I know. Yeah, when we leave our bodies, you just have this much less. You know, because we are everything. I'm the cup, I'm the table, I'm the napkin, I'm you, I'm the tree, I'm the cameras, the umbrellas, and we're everything. And once we finish an embodiment,
there's just one little tiny molecule less of us, and that's that piece of flesh. But
Right.
that doesn't go anywhere either, because that becomes ash, and so
Well,
we
in
don't
my-
actually go anywhere.
In my experiences with Chris George that I was telling you about him before, and some of the seances that have happened, and I've asked the spirit that's been channeling through him about these things, and it's exactly what you're saying. They said that they don't really go anywhere. They're right there still, except that they're not in the body anymore. They can see us, our loved ones who have passed on, but we can't see them, and that's the thing. But they are there in another dimension, where we will go to be with them again someday.
Yeah, and many beings who have completed incarnations can, especially particularly masters, that's why they can and they do manifest bodies at will. Like Jesus appears to people to this day in full 3D.
Really?
Absolutely, he
Wow.
always has, in hospitals and on deathbeds. And I mean, I've had numerous encounters with him. He's sitting just as much in 3D as you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, so it shows that, you know, this is an illusion, that our souls are immortal and eternal, and we're all things and everywhere at all times.
Yeah.
So, but the only thing that does change is our consciousness. We keep evolving into higher vibrations of love, and that's the goal, in or out of a lifetime.
So, okay, so then love is where it's at then.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, that's very interesting.
I'm having a little Sammy Davis Jr. moment there. She's a cool cat.
So when we
And
get
I
up,
really mean that.
so when we get up in the morning, our main goal for the day is to emit love and to put love into any situation that crosses our path, no matter good, bad, or indifferent. We see it with love, and we treat everybody with love, whatever they're doing or saying or thinking of us. And that's how we mainly go down the path to self-mastery. So if we can always feel love toward everything and everybody, then we're working on it, and we're getting somewhere.
That's the essence of the path to self-mastery, and that's the essence of what we call the game. Because in that game called life, if we know the rules of the game, and that's to be love, learn love, remember love, restore love, practice love at all times, life will throw at us all these opportunities which are very easy to do that, and a lot of opportunities that are very tempting and difficult to choose and be that. And when we do, we get the gold star, we get to move ahead, we get to pass go, collect $200, we get to move up to the next level, and that's the whole adventure. Will you keep choosing it no matter what life tosses at you? And that's the road we take.
Like Job, who could not be made to be unhappy no matter what happened to him. He said to God, I'm not going to be unhappy. No matter what happens in my life, I'm going to be okay. And that's the attitude you have to take. And then you put out love toward everybody that you come across. And then you bring that love back into yourself too. You could feel the love coming back.
Oh, it absolutely does. Everything you put out comes back. The universe is a giant boomerang which amplifies and returns to us whatever we say, think, feel, do in any moment. So that's the real blessing, you know. Just the same way the person who serves is the person who is served. You know, the joy of serving is the reward for serving.
It's true.
So, and it's the same way when you love and bless everything and everyone, the blessings just rain upon you. And the funny thing is, some people may want to do that so that they get blessings, but it's not really about that. You just do it because that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Right, and also...
but it does come back.
It does come back, and we also have to have an attitude of gratitude about it. I remember the retreat you did the last time you were here was in February of 2008. And during that retreat, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I learned a lot, and I came away with a lot. But the one thing that I came away with most was when you explained to us about being grateful, and you said that we should take in 6 deep breaths, 6 breaths, and say, I am so blessed, and then let those 6 breaths out and say, I am so grateful, and that will bring upon you positive energies, because you're being grateful, and the universe and God is noticing that you're being grateful.
It not only brings positive blessings to you, but it also creates instant attunement, communion and union with God, because gratefulness is the highest form of prayer. Because when you express your gratefulness for the good, the bad, the ugly, the pain, the suffering, the windfalls, the money, the great sex, the new job, the death, the getting fired, house burning down, whatever it is, if you just keep saying how grateful you are for everything, there are so many hidden messages and meanings in that. Number one, you're saying that you're not a victim. You're saying that everything, you have everything you need. Because when you're always saying how grateful you are showing and creating your union with God by not expressing I want, I need. Implicit in that gratefulness is that everything that my soul needs, God gives me in every moment. And that creates, that knowingness creates instant communion and union with God. So it's the highest form of prayer. Because many people pray just saying, give me this, give me that, I want this, I want that, rather than just, I'm so grateful, I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful, I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful. I mean, that's the mantra that is what I call the divine breath. Inhale, I am so blessed. Exhale, I am so grateful. Every breath in your body, every minute of your day. And your whole life transforms.
Yeah.
Your whole life transforms.
Whenever I've done that, I have felt, first of all, an inner wonderful peace, and also outer things that come to me that are good, wonderful, good experiences. So it is very important, I believe, on your path to mastery, to be grateful.
It is. You're also proclaiming that there's a knowingness inside of you that everything in some convoluted way is part of God's will. You know, there's just this oneness consciousness when you do it. And again, getting back to where we started the program, when I said that regardless of your race, religion, creed, culture, age, gender, belief system, if you look at the path to self-mastery and these simple basic principles that I'm describing, everyone can attain higher and higher levels of mastery. And an example here with gratefulness, suppose someone says, you know, in reply to what I just said, oh, well, I'm not going to sit here and focus every breath on being grateful. That's ridiculous. I have a job, I have kids, I got to drive my car, I'll have an accident. But what everyone can do, you can start your day with 2 or 3 minutes of just lying in bed when your eyes open. This is what I ask everyone to do. The first thing you do when your eyes open, and I do it every day of my life, thank God for another day in my embodiment. I thank God for the opportunity to go learn more about love, to become greater love, to serve people, to receive love. And then at the end of the day, the last thing you do before bed, just take a couple of minutes. And if you don't want to do that, take 1 minute. Take 30 seconds. Just bring your attention to gratefulness. Thank you for that day, and reflect upon all that happened, including the painful and the uncomfortable things. I'm grateful that I lost my job today, God. I'm grateful. And if you don't want to say God, don't say God. Say, I'm just grateful. Because it doesn't matter anyway.
Well, let's say in the case of somebody losing their job that day, they may not be so grateful because they have to support a family.
Well, fake it till you make it, I say.
But, right?
Be grateful anyway.
But there might be something better. My mother always said, God closes one door, he opens another.
Exactly.
And so if you lose something, because God has something better planned for you.
Exactly. The only things that get taken from us, and I don't mean God taking, the only things that come out of our lives, the things that are not serving us or that we no longer need. God doesn't send us pain and suffering. God only sends blessings. God is a river of love that knows only love. So this whole thing about that God's the bad guy and the judge and the hellfire and brimstone thing, that's just got to go.
I know people have said, God, why'd you do this to me? But God did not do this to you.
God is love.
You've actually done it to yourself in some ways, and God allows it because when you're doing things to yourself, you're asking him to allow it.
God allows it because it's blessing us. Our job is to find out how and why.
Right.
Everything is blessing us. And the wise ones will be on their treasure hunt to find out why. Like you said, maybe there's a new job coming that you can't see and don't know.
Right.
Maybe something's about to happen in your family that you don't know, and you're going to need to be there.
Right.
Maybe someone's going to have an accident 2 days after you lost your job, and you were going to have to leave your job anyway, or something. I mean, everything's a blessing.
Everything's true.
It's our job to find out how and why.
I know, it's like sometimes somebody's driving slow in front of you, and you see somebody that, or you're slowing down for some reason, and the person behind you is beeping. Maybe you're slowing down because there might be an accident up ahead for you or the person behind you who's beeping at you, not knowing that something might be coming up. They're just being impatient. You know, there's the reason for everything.
Yeah, oh, I've had that happen to me. I've had that happen to me, missing fatal car accidents because someone cut me off and then that person got hit, or my car just changed lanes at the last moment for no apparent reason, and someone came up and rear-ended the car where I would have been sitting at 60.
Right.
You know, I had the car just explode and just everything went all over my car, the broken glass, and bodies flew through the windshield. Everyone was killed.
Oh my God.
And I'm just sitting there just in shock.
This really happened to you?
Yeah, that was years ago.
Oh my God.
I was at a red light at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was half asleep just trying to get home, a mile from my house. And I was pulling up to the light. And then for no apparent reason, there was no one on the road as far as I could see. It was a straightaway. And there was no one in my rearview mirror. I didn't even see the car. There was just one car in front of me. I was driving like that, and then next to me was empty, and I'm only one car from the red light. And at 3 in the morning, there's no one on the road. I had no reason to pull over. He wasn't holding me up. We were stopped at the red light, and I just went like that next to him. And then 2 seconds later, maybe 1 second, the car never even hit the brakes. The guy was drunk or drugged, rear-ended that car where mine was sitting at 60 miles an hour, and he was stopped.
Oh boy.
Everyone was killed, and all the broken glass went all over my car. I just sat there just shaking, and I just, thank you, God.
Right, being very grateful, of course.
Some angel just pushed my car and
Yeah.
And I actually remember, hands on my hands turning the wheel.
Wow.
I remember feeling that.
Wow.
Because I'm saying, why am I changing lanes?
Because it wasn't meant for you to go because you have important work to do.
Not at that moment, it wasn't.
Not at that moment, and we all got to go, but not at that moment.
So yeah, the point you make is valid, that, you know, everything happens for a reason.
Anyway.
Ooh. See, that was divine. That's called divine punctuation.
That's right, because now we have to talk about your return. You
mean next life or next trip?
Both.
Okay.
No, next trip.
That's for the next
Coming
show.
up in March. Okay, you're going to be here March 12th to the 14th, but before that as well, you're going to be. And so at the end of the show, there'll be a page that if anyone would like to contact Louix Dor Dempriey for his next trip here from California. As a matter of fact, he comes from California, comes here periodically for various reasons, usually do retreats, bring spirituality to other people, which is a wonderful thing. And he'll be here in March, so if you are interested in seeing him in March, feel free to contact him. His page is at the end of the show with the phone number and website and everything. And it's time to say thank you for being here again.
Thank you,
it is my pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
This was a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure that we brought a lot of enlightenment and good information to our audience. Take care and good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.